Being mindful is the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on a moment-to-moment basis, which can be extremely important while trying to understand and learn more about mental health. So let me welcome you to Mindful Thoughts. My name is Deloris, and I feel like my mission in life is to help break down those barriers around mental wellness by sharing personal stories, tips, and confessions of mental health to help us shine a light on mental wellness. So what are we waiting for? Let's dive in. So I have a confession, and that confession is I wanted to give up. Now, before anybody jumps to conclusions, what I wanted to give up on was this podcast and vlogging and writing my book. Like, everything I've been working towards in the last year into this year, I just wanted to let it all go. Now, again, before anybody freaks out, I'm not. But Monday was rough. And when I say it was rough, it was one of those days where I woke up, I was fine. We went to meet with our photographer for our wedding. We came home and I was vlogging. I ended my vlog. I was ready to start editing stuff. I was ready to record a podcast episode, and then my depression hit me really hard. And for some reason, the last 2 weekends have been really rough with my depression. So it hit me. I was upset. I was crying. I started having all these negative thoughts. And if you're someone who suffers from depression or any mental health illness, you'll understand those moments where you're flooded with so many emotions and you're flooded with so many negative thoughts that sometimes, like, you let them overtake you and you start believing them. So as I was sitting there, I was just thinking to myself, like, if I don't get a podcast episode out, people won't listen, and I'll lose followers and I'll lose listeners and all that stuff. And then, like, I had to remind myself of the last podcast episode I did about being consistent and how sometimes it's okay to take those moments where you need to stop and you need to take care of yourself and all that. But my mind just kept running, and I just kept telling myself, like, for some reason my mind was going to, like, nobody's listening to me, nobody's watching my videos, like, it's just not worth it. And I felt so worthless, and I'm like, I'm just don't want to do it anymore. Like, it would just be better to give up than just to keep going and feeling this way. And, like, first I want to say, like, I do have people listening to my episodes and I do have people watching my videos on YouTube. It was just one of those moments of weakness, and I was just letting my depression control how I was feeling and what I was thinking. So I was sitting there for a while, and of course, when I get into those moods, Ken, who is my fiancé, always comes over and he asks me, like, what's going on? What are you thinking? Talk to me. So originally he thought that I was feeling and crying and doing and having these emotions because, like, I got my period and I'm very emotional around that time of month, that I was having cramps and I wasn't feeling well. But then he came over and he sat down with me and he asked me, like, what's going on? And I was telling him everything about how I was feeling and all this stuff. And actually yesterday at work, I took my passion planner, and there's, like, spots where you can, like, write stuff down. It's a space of infinite possibilities. And I wrote down how I was feeling. It just made me think, like, I wanted to share this with you guys of how sometimes when you're suffering and you're going through a moment really hard, like, you just question everything that you're doing, and you question the things that you've done in the past and the things that you want to do, and you question if it's worth doing. So, like I said, he came over and he started asking me, like, what's going on? And I was telling him, like, I just feel like I want to give up, like, it's not worth it, like, nobody's listening to these podcast episodes and nobody's watching me on YouTube, and, like, what's the point? Like, I'm trying so hard and feel like I'm getting nothing back. And like I said, it's not like that. Like, people are listening, people are watching, but I was just so in my head too of, like, where everybody else is. And, like, I kept, like, I told him, like, there's people that started podcasts this year who have way more listens than me, and, like, I just kept, like, snowballing. there was 2 questions he asked me that made me realize that I was being ridiculous, and it hit me really hard. So the first question he asked me was if I like doing what I do. He said, do you like creating the podcasts? Do you like recording them? I said, yeah, I do. He said, do you like vlogging? Do you like putting videos together and putting them up and having people watch them? Do you like what you do? And I was like, yeah, I love what I do. Like, I love creating these episodes, and I love creating podcasts, and I love doing these things. And then he asked me the second question, and this one hit me so hard and made me realize like how ridiculous I was being, and how much I was letting my depression control how I was feeling, and how I needed to just take Monday off, clear my mind, and come back when I was in a different headspace. Because the second question he asked me was if I only had one person listening to my podcast, or one person watching my YouTube videos, and I was only helping that one person every single time. Every single time I posted a podcast episode, it was reaching that one person. That one person listened to every episode, and they got something from it, and they loved it. If I only had one person watching my YouTube, and they loved watching me, and they loved seeing my life and seeing what I was doing, like, if I only ever had one person who was digging into my content and sticking around every single time, like, would I still do it? And that one hit me so hard, because it made me realize, like, yeah, of course, my answer is yes. Because even if this connects with one person, I would still do it. Like, even if there was ever one person listening, watching, I would still do it. Because then that means that there's somebody out there getting, information or connecting with me in a way that I don't know. But my words and what I say are something they need to hear, and something that they can connect with. So it was in that moment that I've realized how worked up I got over nothing, and how sometimes I let my depression get the best of me. Because if you suffer from depression, you have those really bad days, or those really bad moments where, like for me, it comes out of nowhere and it hits me really hard, and it makes me feel down, and it makes me feel out. In those moments, I question a lot. Like, the negative thoughts come tumbling in, and I question everything I'm doing, and everything I want to do, and the things that I've done. And in that moment, I always feel unloved and worthless, and feel like I can't accomplish anything that I want to do, and things that I want to do aren't going to happen. And truly, it was in that moment that I realized that if I didn't have a partner like Ken, who was there to be my support system, who was there to cheer me on when I felt down, who was there to encourage me to keep going, like, I had the thought of, like, what I've given up? What if I walked away from my podcast, walked away from YouTube, just, like, not wrote any more of my book? Like, what if I just let it all go? And the more I thought about it, I was like, maybe in the moment I would have, but I think there would have been a part of me that once I felt better again, that would have realized, like, no, you need to keep going. Like, why would you do that? Like, don't give up. This is what you want to do. This is your dream. And it was really one of those moments where I'm so grateful, and I'm so thankful and blessed to have such an amazing partner in my life who is there to lift me up when I need lifted up, and there to encourage me to keep going, and there to remind me why I do what I do, and why I love doing what I do. And I encourage anybody who feels the way I feel, when you have those moments where you just want to give up, that I encourage you to find somebody who can support you and love on you in those moments where, when you're feeling that horrible feeling and those negative thoughts, that you can reach out to them and you can call them and say, hey, I'm deep in it, I just don't know what to do, I'm spiraling. And you can have that person help you come back. Like, for some people, they say therapy is a very good place, but I don't, like, as much as a therapist can encourage you to keep going, it's not going to mean, I feel, as much if you have somebody who knows you, like a friend or a family member who really knows you, who really can tell you, I see what you're doing, and you're doing amazing things, and you love what you do, so in this moment it might be hard, but you just need to keep going. And the more I just thought about it, like, that was Monday, and we had work yesterday, which was Tuesday, and I just like kept thinking about it all day yesterday. And that's why, like, I wrote it down. I wrote it all down, like everything I was feeling, and starting with I wanted to give up, and how I felt, and how just having Ken come over and ask me those 2 questions were so important to me. So if you're in a moment where you want to give up and you just don't know if you can do anymore, I want you to ask yourself these 2 questions. First, ask yourself if you like doing what you do. Because the big part of it is, if you aren't enjoying the process of what you're doing, if you don't enjoy recording podcast episodes, doing vlogs, if you don't enjoy writing a book, if you don't enjoy writing content for YouTube or for Instagram or TikTok, or if you don't enjoy creating the shirts you're creating or doing what you're doing, like whatever you do for you and you've been doing it for a long time, if like you don't have joy out of it, then it's not what you should be doing. You should be doing something that you truly enjoy doing. But if you enjoy doing it, then it's the path that you should be taking and that you should be on. And the second question to ask yourself is, when you're doubting yourself, is that if you only ever had one person following you, buying your stuff, supporting you, loving on you, would you keep going? Because sometimes we forget, with everything that's going on in the world and with social media and with people interacting with our stuff, that like we all have had that one post or that one video or that one podcast episode that like no one listens to, or only one person listens to. And it's that moment we need to stop and realize, like, even if one person is listening, even if one person is supporting us, even if one person is watching us, would we keep going? And for most of us, we would say yes, because it's worth the time to just touch that one person and be able to help that one person. So for me, I got so worked up about having to record a podcast episode and feeling the way I was feeling, and then questioning everything I was questioning, to just sit back and realize that sometimes I might question myself, but I love what I do. And even if I am reaching one person, and even if I'm connecting with one person, I will absolutely keep doing what I'm doing, because to me, it's worth it. It's worth to connect with one person who really needs to hear what I'm hearing. And I'm so passionate about my podcast, and so passionate about mental health, and so passionate about creating vlogs. It's helped, open up this creative side to me that I would have never known about. Or writing my book has helped lead me into like different chapters and things that I never would have thought I would have done before. So I wanted to share this with you guys because, again, this isn't the episode that I was originally recorded, but this was the one that was on my heart. And I usually don't try to do confessions of mental health so close to each other, but this is how I was feeling, and this is what was on my heart, and this is what I want to share with you. Because there might be somebody right now who is struggling and going through the thick of it, who just feels like it's just going to be easier to give up than keep going. But like I said, when you're in that moment, ask yourself those 2 questions. Again, number 1, do you enjoy what you're doing? And number 2 is, even if there's only ever one person watching you, listening to you, buying your stuff, would you keep doing it just for that one person? So I just wanted to share that with you guys this morning. I wanted to let you know how I was feeling, and how even in those moments where I feel like I want to give up, I'm not going to. But it's okay to have those moments where you just feel like you just want to be done. Because I think even people who aren't suffering, who have been there, where they're in their bathroom or in their beds and they're ugly crying and they just feel like it's too much. But sometimes too, you just need somebody else that can look at you and say, like, you're doing amazing things. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Like, you just have to believe in yourself and keep going. Because self-doubt will come in and say that you can't, and you're not smart enough, or you don't have enough information or education, whatever it is, to keep going, but you do. So today I just wanted to share with you that I confess that I had a moment of weakness and I wanted to just give up. But I'm here and I'm showing up, and I'm going to keep showing up no matter what, because I love what I do and I love sharing with you guys. So I will talk to you guys again real soon. Thank you so much for listening to another episode. And you know what would be so amazing? If you shared, left a comment, and liked this episode. Any type of support and love for this podcast is going to help it grow more and more every day. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'll talk to you again soon.